As the tale goes, the Wendigo was once a lost hunter. During a brutally cold winter, this man's intense hunger drove him to cannibalism. After feasting on another human's flesh, he transformed into a crazed man-beast, roaming the forest in search of more people to eat. The story of the Wendigo comes from Algonquian Native American folklore, and exact details vary depending on who you ask. Some people who have claimed to encounter the beast say it's a relative of Bigfoot, but other reports compare the Wendigo to a werewolf instead. Since the Wendigo is said to be a cold weather creature, most sightings have been reported in Canada, as well as colder northern states such as Minnesota. At the turn of the 20th century, the Algonquian tribes blamed many unsolved disappearances of people on Wendigo attacks. For being an insatiable predator, the Wendigo is definitely not the largest or most muscular beast out there. Though it is said to be almost 15 feet tall, its body is often described as emaciated. Perhaps this can be attributed to the notion that it is never satisfied with its cannibalistic urges. Obsessed with hunting for new victims, it is forever hungry until it's eating another person. Different versions of the Wendigo legend say different things about his speed and agility. Some claim he is unusually fast and can endure walking for long periods of time, even in harsh winter conditions. Others say he walks in a more haggard manner, as if he is falling apart. But speed wouldn't be a necessary skill for a monster of this nature. Unlike other terrifying carnivores, the Wendigo doesn't rely on pursuing his prey in order to capture and eat it. Rather, one of his said traits is his ability to mimic human voices. He uses this skill to lure people in and draw them away from civilization. Once they're isolated in the desolate depths of the wilderness, he feasts on them. I've been extremely hesitant to post about this, mostly because I'm afraid I'll be called a liar. I have, however, made the difficult decision to post about it. On March 27th, 2019, I was out in my neighborhood riding my 50cc dirt bike. There's a large canyon that starts about 400 feet away from my house, so I decided to go out there and ride around the trails. On my way up the hill to get to the trails, I smelled something god-awful. When I finally got up to the top of the hill, I rode about 100 to 150 feet north and turned my bike to the left. That's where I saw it. When I think back to it, I tear up because of how terrifying it was. This Wendigo was probably 12 to 15 feet tall. It had a wolf's head and was missing skin around its spinal cord so that I was able to see through it. I could see its rib cage, its legs bent backwards, and the head was absolutely massive. After sitting there for a few seconds trying to process what the hell I had just seen, it turned its body to the east to face me. Probably half a second after it moved, I was already in second gear and flying back down the hill, headed home. I live in California, and this description does not completely fit the Wendigo, but it's the closest thing I can relate it to. Any ideas on what it might have been? Wendigos are real, and the one that has been sighted all over Texas is the same one I saw a couple of times. This last time, though, I saw a clear, detailed body, and I'll never forget its huge black eyes. I've heard its mimicry of dying animals, and even my old friend calling for help from the dark forest, even though I knew they were home because I dropped them off at their house and walked home myself. It's tried to lure me into the woods, but I know its games. In the winter of 2016, twice in 2018 around the fall months, and again in the new year of 2019. January 12th, 2019. It was a relatively cold night with slight misting. I circled my whole town because it's pretty small. Coming home, I walked by this large patch of woods nobody goes in except me because I'm the adventurous type. As I'm coming up to it, with the woods on my right, and an old metal building with two small white houses beside it to my left, I see this tall, 8 to 10 foot, pale figure briskly walk across the dirt road from one of the houses to the woods about 40 feet in front of me. I know I saw something, but ignore it and continue walking forward. Then this feeling of heaviness and dread washes over me as if I'm being watched. I take out my phone and switch on the light app and keep it aimed at the woods. I turn my head back and forth from the houses to the woods as I'm walking still. About the 5th time I look back at the woods, there it is. It's on all fours, crouching over, but is easily still 5 feet tall at the shoulder. I'm around 5 feet tall, by the way, so that's how I could tell. It was again only about 40 feet away. It had bleached white skin, a bald head, huge black eyes, human face and body, except it looked extremely emaciated, and its arms were like super long twigs. It started and swayed its body back and forth, like a mantis. That's when I ran as fast as I could. I only looked back after I ran a block. It didn't chase me, but I'm pretty sure it was upset that I interrupted its spying session on the people sleeping in those houses. Please be careful in Yorktown, Texas at night. If you're here, I hope you'll believe me and take my advice. Today I am sharing an experience from my past. I was around 11 or 12 at the time this happened, and it occurred in the region of Central Texas. If you guys ever have seen this figure or something similar, I'd love to hear your stories. Alright, so it was during early spring if I remember correctly. The sun was starting to set early as usual, and I was walking home from my buddy Jeffrey's house. When I was walking, I didn't see a single soul, and with only one working streetlight on my road, I hurried home as quickly as possible. Upon passing around 5 homes, I felt a shiver creep down my spine, and my hair rise. It felt as if something was watching me, burying into my being with its eyes. Upon the shiver, I turned full circle, only to see a figure gray as molding clay and around 7 or 8 feet in stature. Its eyes were deep black sockets, and its mouth was as dark as a black hole. Its arms were skinny as twigs, followed by hands more resembling stumps than human fingers. There also seemed to be an item around its neck. I forgot exactly what it was, but I'm gonna guess that it was like a piece of black tattered cloth. I let out a small yelp and ran as fast as I ever did in my life. In the distance, I swore I heard small thumps following me. By the time I got to my house, I swung the door open and bolted the 3 locks on the door shut. I remember a thump on the door among the likes of a dead corpse hitting the ground. However, after that initial thump at the door, I glanced out the window to find nothing there. It was as if the monster had vanished into the cloaked darkness around it. I'm apparently not the only one to see this thing I dubbed as the figure.